of those people. You will find, I think, a rather interesting recapitulation of what happened in his case. Okay, thank you very much for your very good attention. Now we are happy to introduce Stephen Halpern, known to practically all of you, probably anyway, but if you don't, he is an internationally known and recognized authority on the use of music for health and healing, and he's a composer, recording artist, educator, author, and seminar leader with over 40 cassettes, LPs, and CDs to his credit, and new ones are coming out periodically. He's written a couple of books called one Sound Health and the other one Spectrum Suite. He's spoken at over 100 of these type organizations, and the number is continually increasing. As a matter of just sort of interest, how many of you own one or more of his records or tapes, or, oh boy, it may not be much business for you here this year. Anyway, we're glad he's with us. This is the first time he's spoken to our group. We know you're glad too, aren't you? Will you welcome Steve Halpern at this time, please?
Thank you. Let's see. Now, how do we get wired up? Thank you.
Okay. Let's put that on your lapel.
Okay.
Coat pocket around, or should I put it on a belt?
Let's put it on here. I'm going to take that off. So we might as well start with it.
And then this one on your lapel. That's the one you have to take off when you're over there.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here. I've been hearing about this conference for many years, and this is the first time I've had the actual pleasure of being here amongst so much family, as Bob Beck mentioned earlier. And certainly with a show of hands, it's a great extended family. What I propose to share with you this evening is an overview of the work, some of the reasons why sound works. I acknowledge the Kerseys for doing the first part of my presentation. When I do a full-day workshop, color is very much part of what I do, and indeed with the slideshow that we will be focusing on this evening, we'll be having a multimedia expression of sound and color, and many of the secrets that you heard them sharing were things that I've been working with over the last number of years, and it was nice to see it in such a condensed, enjoyable fashion. In working with the aspects of bringing your body into harmony, obviously sound and color are two major aspects. Working with many of the spectrum ranges of energy that you do covered in this conference, I would mention that I have focused on sound for a number of reasons, not the least of which is easier to see the effects and to hear the effects and to feel the effects than with some of the spectra beyond the range of hearing. It's also a lot less, you run into a lot less problems in dealing with things related to sound and music than you do when you deal with radionic levels of energy, etc. But a lot of those experiences, a lot of that research has been what I have drawn on in the work that I presented out in the world, which is to say that there's a lot more going on with music like Spectrum Suite or Crystal Suite or many of the others in the anti-frantic alternative than you could hear. There's a lot more, let me put it this way, there's a lot going on between the notes, in the spaces between the notes, and indeed the music is a carrier wave for consciousness. So that is one of the key phrases that I would wish to share with you this evening. We will be taking at least one guided experience with the chakras, the energy systems that relate to sound and color in the body. We'll be focusing also a little bit on breath and also showing you how easily your body is manipulated by sounds and rhythms around you. I would also point out that the title of this program was actually Entrainment and the Healing Power of Sound. And there is a difference between entertainment and entrainment. When I unwire myself and go over to the piano, I will demonstrate some of those things in a moment. Or we might say beyond entertainment into entrainment, because what is happening with a lot of the sounds that we hear is that your body is being immediately, instantaneously manipulated and entrained. And if you know how to take your own pulse, or if you just can feel your heartbeat, feel it right now. Just take a moment. And now notice what happens as I begin to tap out this fancy disco rhythm. And as I speed it up, notice what's happening. And many of you can probably feel your heartbeat or your pulse rate speeding up and slowing down. And that quickly. Working again as I have with audiences of nurses. I won't get too slow right now because it is late for some of you. I've worked with nurses, and these are people who professionally take people's pulse. And what they realize is sometimes when they might be prescribing drugs for someone's pulse, which might be too fast or too slow, the problem might have been the music that was on in the background. That the person, and because what we respond to with our human instruments is sometimes very subtle. Obviously, we know it's very subtle, but it can be music that's just on in the background, not even something that you're paying attention to. Nature gave us eyelids, she didn't give us earlids. Or shall we say body lids, because your entire body responds to sound. Just as we saw with color earlier on, your entire body, whether it's be through the acupuncture meridians or the very sense organs in the body, your whole body responds to sound. In fact, if we just close our eyes a moment and listen to the sounds in this room, just take a moment and become aware of the sounds that you can hear that you may not have heard a moment or two ago. Become aware now with your eyes closed of where in your body you can feel those sounds. And perhaps just take your right hand and place it where in your body you might feel the most dominant sound. There's no right or wrong. It has been suggested that, however, that some of where you put your hand during this experience might be where you are holding some excess tension or where there might be a blockage of energy in your body. It also relates to where your body resonates to the predominant frequency of sound in this air conditioner. But again, many people experience it differently. So when you're ready, open your eyes back on up. And before I play a little background music, let's just take another approach to understanding how your body responds to sound. And that is, we did the rhythms before. Let's deal with pitch, which is how high or low a frequency is. We mentioned, the Kerseys mentioned refrigerators. We'll talk about refrigerators in just a moment as we do this. I'd like you first to make a low sound on the English vowel O. Okay, let's get to know your body, get to know your human instrument. Together, 1, 2, 3. Now I'd like to close your eyes, and I'd like you to, again, to take your right hand, keeping the sound going, to feel where in your body you can feel this sound. Okay, on your own body, please, gentlemen in the back. It's a good crowd. And now a mid-range sound. Oh, and again, move your hand and see where you feel it. This will also help wake you up a little bit. And finally, a high sound. Oh. And now close your eyes and go inside. Become aware of the space inside your chest. Become aware of the space between your ears. And just do a little energy scan. Become aware of what you were just feeling, where the energy was moving. And reflect as you begin to open your eyes now. If it isn't true that you notice that the lower frequencies resonated in the lower part of your torso and the higher frequencies resonated in the head area. Anyone that experienced anything radically different than that can see me during the break. But it seems to be true that nature set it up so that whether it's through bone conduction or actually the ways that the cells began to assemble and align themselves early on as we were becoming organisms in the womb had to do with frequency. It's been suggested that the only differences between manifestations of matter and spirit are the qualities of frequency. In other words, how fast or slow something is vibrating. So if we take sound in the frequency range of, shall we say, 20 to 20,000 cycles per second, that is typically what we are told we hear. If we raise that 44 octaves, which means you double the frequencies on and on and on, you get to the range of color. So there is a relationship between sound and color. And early on in my research, I was looking at something as a good type A person from New York, looking for something that was legal, that was non-addictive, that was something that I could do at home for myself, that would help me relax, that would help me feel better. Because a lot of what we're doing here in this conference, certainly the first several speakers today in the synopses and in the first hour, suggesting ways that we can help ourselves feel better, ways that we can enhance our own biophysical, psycho-spiritual functioning, ways that we can help tune your human instrument. And one of the significant ways that I have found is to allow the body to heal itself, assisting the body, nourishing the body with sound. Now, we like to do this and phrase it in that way because in that way, we're not practicing medicine by saying, we are going to show you some sounds, let you hear some sounds that will heal your body, because we're not in England or some other country where that's legal. So we would just phrase it in a way that really makes it clear that your body knows the score. Your body knows what to do if you give it the raw materials, give it a little boost. So this, we might call this vitamins of the airwaves, and a whole real way of talking about sound nutrition. By extension, we might say that if a certain area of your body, which we'll see in some of the slides in a moment, resonates in a certain color area, in a certain tonal area, we might translate that to mean that we might assist, shall we say, a disease of the liver, such as yellow jaundice, which happens to exist in the yellow area of the body. By focusing certain colors and certain frequencies there, this might invoke a whole new aspect to a term, the term organ recital. So as we move into the New Age organ recital, we may be able to nourish ourselves without, and one of the things I love, I've always enjoyed about Bob Beck's presentations, is he takes these $18,000 treatments and shows you how a $30 treatment or a $30 device can do the same thing. With sound, we can do some of these things with our voice, and through the sophisticated technology of cassettes and compact discs, we can avail ourselves of sounds that can be a lot more than just pretty notes. Okay. Any questions so far? Great. Let me just show you something you can do with your voice. You can do this in the shower. You can do it when you're driving. Many people believe that when they are in the shower and they're singing. How many of you sing in the shower, by the way? Okay, would you close your eyes a moment? Now, would you raise your hands again? How many of you sing in the shower? Right, a lot more festive, but not as many as we might have. Singing in the shower is highly recommended, can be a major healing modality because you have the reflective surfaces of the shower which give you acoustical feedback. Your voice sounds better in that area, and when you do a technique that many of you in this area may be familiar with, a wonderful woman who's no longer on the earth plane in the way that she was several years ago, Elizabeth Laurel Keyes, who put out a great book called Toning. So a very brief way of doing toning would be to stand up. If you're in the shower, you could even do it sitting in your car when you're driving, when you're at a stoplight, or even a stop sign waiting for it to change. You start with a low note and just allow, like a siren, your voice to come higher. So that would be like, oh. Now, we don't have time to get into that right now in depth, but let's just take that even twice, with your eyes closed so that no one else will know who's singing what. I'd like you to begin on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, slowly, starting low. Okay, now do that again without straining. Do it a little slower right now. And when you get to the top, stay there with your eyes closed and listen to the sound inside now. Let the sound fade away and just listen to it with the third ear, with the inner ear. And know that as you begin to work with this, Again, this is legal, it's non-addictive, it's very inexpensive. It's something that will energize your body right here in the Denver area, in Boulder. Don Campbell's Institute for Music, Health, and Education, popularizing and working with research and building upon the work of Dr. Alfred Tomatis, is showing us that this ear is an incredibly potent organ, much more so than we may be familiar with. Again, it's not just an organ that we hear with, not just an organ of balance, but the ear is actually an electrical charging mechanism for the body. I don't know how many of you have afflictions of the ear, such as tinnitus or tinnitus? Okay, in the statistics, we are told that maybe 20 million people in America have what sounds like this air conditioning in their ear, something that sounds like a lot of the time. Hopefully, some of the people in this room perhaps may know of some technologies that may be beyond what traditional science, medical science has to offer right now. The ear is an incredibly, and a whole hearing apparatus, I guess an incredibly unglorious aspect, so there hasn't been as much research focused on it, even as towards sight and vision and glasses. Speaking of afflictions, does anyone else have a root canal problem today? Okay, if anyone knows of wonderful cures for root canals that even go beyond what the SE5 has been able to do for my root canal problems, I'd like to know about it. And you could come up and speak to me afterwards about that. So we work with color, we work with sound, and there seem to be certain things that go beyond that. So I just wanted to put that out. Today, I would also, before I get into to some of the music and some of the slideshow, mention that I started knowing about the higher harmonics of sound much early in my life. I guess even while I was a teenager, I knew there was much more to music, much more to sound than playing the little black dots written by dead white European composers. And early on, I was happy to find out that the music that I was hearing in my head did not mean that I was crazy. It meant that if I reframed that context, it meant I was a composer. So other people who hear voices in their heads sometimes go one way, other times they become psychics and channelers. I was happy to have an outlet for that. And shortly after I moved out from Buffalo, where I went to undergraduate school, I was in California. I was essentially sat down in a grove of redwoods, in a redwood amphitheater, and basically heard the music that became ultimately known as Spectrum Suite. I'm going to play just a little bit of that right now. As I talk. And what that opened up for me was a manifestation of something that I knew for a long time. I didn't know where the music came from. Maybe we can have that just a little softer. Maybe a little, okay, I guess it hasn't changed yet. There we go. Okay. Turn me down. In any case, at a conference like this, I would just mention that over the years, it has been very interesting to me the number of people, both in body and out of body, who have claimed to have been the people that have sent me the music that is Spectrum Suite. So I honor and love all of them. I can't stand here and tell you exactly who it was specifically and where it was that it came from, but I've had some very interesting experiences over the years that relate to many of the other speakers, one of which I did have a lot of confirmation for that manifested as the album called Eastern Peace. Some of you may be familiar with Greta Woodrue in the book On a Slide of Light. I had a very interesting lesson in 1978 with Balaka and some of the Ogata group, and had the opportunity to work with that energy in the studio and bring that forth onto tape. So it's been a matter of tuning into nature, tuning into different levels of existence. That is part of what assists me in doing the music that I do. I don't sit down with pen and ink necessarily and write out what I'm doing, but as I tune in and open up and the music comes through, I begin to hear things that I hadn't heard before, And through the miracle of multi-track technology, I'm able to record layers of sound upon sound and work with, when I go beyond just solo instruments like this, which is an instrument that wasn't even invented, shall we say, 20 years ago. Music that really touches inside. When we ask the body what kind of sound the body would like to heal itself, to nurture itself, the biofeedback studies and the muscle testing studies and a lot of the other studies that I was involved in suggested that this instrument, which is essentially like a series of tuning forks, was a sound that the body really opened up to. It was a very round sound, a very warm sound. And that has become the basis of a lot of the work that I've done, and one of the reasons that the music works as it does, because the tones itself assist the body in operating on a higher level of functioning. Can we get the slides on, please? If we get the house lights on and the slide projector on, and we will try to do the multi-level, multimedia aspect right now. Okay, we can probably get these lights down even more so we can see these. It looks like the videotape will wash out the slides, so maybe we could turn out the videotape for a moment. And we'll take you through a very brief version. It might be a way to focus this. Let's see. Do we have a videotape, a slide projector monitor? Well, apparently no one. So I'll just go on in a moment, and we'll talk you through it. Since we have moving pictures. For thousands of years, people have known, of course, that sound and color affect our consciousness, affect our vibrations, and is a wonderful way to elevate and enhance our rate of vibration. It's been, again, suggested that as we move into the higher levels of frequency, we move beyond the gross physical into the etheric bodies and on up into the spiritual bodies. And these might be higher harmonics of the physical body. One of the reasons why you have wonderful shapes and colors in churches, certainly the great Gothic cathedrals, was for the effect of the uplifting effect of the sounds and colors in there. The shapes alone would have an effect. Now, the shapes that we see in nature sometimes have quite powerful effects on us as well. Can you still hear me with this microphone? It hasn't been turned on. In the interest of science and time, I will tell you that this slide is not a slice of a carrot or an onion, but is a steel disc upon which sand has been sprinkled, and then this disc has been stimulated by sound. And you see that the disc forms a harmonious pattern. Each of us, every atom, molecule, cell, and gland in our body has a characteristic frequency at which it resonates, at which it will absorb sound and radiate sound and frequencies. In this case, if the frequency that the tone is being played at is the right one for the disc, you'll get a harmonious image. If it's just the rumble of a refrigerator or some disco music, you would not get an image that looks like this. If you think back to where your body was when we did the low, middle, and high sounds, you notice that the low sounds, which would also correspond to some of the rumbling sound of a refrigerator, resonate in the stomach area. It's no accident that the refrigerator sounds resonate and entrain that part of your body. It's no accident that the commercials we heard earlier, that the colors that are used in restaurants are certain colors. That's true. And if you listen to the soundtracks in these restaurants, they'll be fast soundtracks because the restaurant people want to entrain you so that the speed of your mouth moves at the same speed as the music, so you'll eat fast and move fast and get in and out fast. Your body is entrained to the rhythms, and this is a way that we make our nervous systems even more nervous. So what can you do about it? Well, you can surround yourself with some more harmonious sounds. You can get out in nature. You can deep breathe every once in a while throughout the day. That'll, again, trigger a reflex that allows your body to manifest its own perfect pattern of perfection. Now, many of you are familiar with the sacred syllable, the Om sound. I had you earlier do a round sound. if you put an M at the end of it. In fact, why don't we do it right now while we deal with these moving pictures. Apparently not. But if you take your glasses off, it may work just fine. Even if you get a hint of what's going on right now, we may be able to focus. The machine didn't work right when I tried it, but we might be able to do something with it. But very quickly, what you'll see is you put the M at the end of the O, and you get the Om sound. The closed sound of your mouth with the M creates a series of interlacing triangles as a function of the diminishing harmonics. The round sound is created by the O. This is from the, obviously many cultures have known this, but the book called Cymatics, if you're interested, is really a place to get a lot of this information. Different frequencies create different shapes. We'll move through this quickly. It'll affect solids, liquids, and gases. It's enough to know right now that sound affects all of these. We could look at different pieces of music by Bach and Mozart. All these pieces of music will have different effects. I would love to see rap music researched in this manner. We'd love to see heavy metal. In fact, in this room tonight is one of the great pioneers in the work who has done some controlled studies on the effect of music on plants, Mrs. Dorothy Redelack, and thank you very much for being here. Unfortunately, as she tried to follow up these studies, from what I understand, the facilities were not made available. Apparently, when you find out how much music affects you, it upsets certain people. There are many people who don't want you to know how music affects you because that's the music that you hear every day on the radio. You play radio roulette. Most music was not consciously designed to empower your physical and spiritual being. So the music that we're listening to now came from a different desire to create music that was such that could bring your human instrument more in harmony with itself, and that would not impose itself, would not entrain its own essence, but it would allow your own basic biological functioning to be more empowered. Now we do this by creating a bit more of a random aspect. In other words, you can't hum the melody that we're playing right now. There isn't a steady beat. And what this does, it allows your body to tune into what your body needs more easily, because your body has a built-in vibration. Years ago, Itzhak Bentov wrote a book called Stalking the Wild Pendulum, and pointed out that when the body is at rest, in harmony, it basically vibrates about 7.8 to 8 cycles per second. As Bob Beck and many others of you know, this is the basic frequency of the Earth. Bob years ago would say the Earth itself has a brainwave. And when you get into that state, your body entrains to the dominant frequency of the Earth itself. One of the easiest ways for getting into that frequency is to listen to music that gets you into that frequency. Most music doesn't get you there. There's some music that will force you there, which can be quite useful. Some of the ancient chants will do that. Some of the more high-tech synthesizer music, Brother Charles, Robert Monroe will do things like that. And then the softer way, the anti-frantic way, is one of the things that I've worked a lot with. Now, we looked at the effect of plants. I guess you can't quite see the philodendron right now. But plants also respond to music in this way, and very characteristically would move into a higher functioning with music like this, certainly in the studies that I did back in 1973, than with most music, that even classical music, at a higher reading than with classical music. We looked at people's fingertips, looking at the evoked image, the curling photograph, and found that as we move from dis-ease to more ease, music like this assisted people in making that transition quicker than anything else that we tested, which included the classical music that got the highest listener agreement of any music available. Which is not to say that the classical music isn't good, but since it wasn't desired for meditation and deep relaxation, it didn't stimulate and assist the body in working those modalities, which suggests that there were different uses for different kinds of music, which is probably true. And I highly recommend a very varied musical diet. But when you're trying to relax and assist your body in going deeper, playing certain kinds of music is like sitting on a thumbtack. Yes, you can relax sitting on a thumbtack, but why bother? Why not just get off the thumbtack, pull it out and do something else? In my studies also, we found that many people, and I'm sure many of you have also found this, would not know a deep relaxation state if it came up and bit them on the elbow or some other part of the body. It's not something we get much training for. So many people told us, yes, we get relaxed when we're bowling, but we get relaxed by watching football or most of TV with all the violence and all the advertising. We know they don't know what they're talking about. Their bodies would tell them if they asked them. That's one of the beauties of biofeedback. Obviously, in this audience, you know that there's a lot more going on in relaxation. The body has a deep relaxation reflex. Again, tapping into the wisdom of the body, if you give it a choice, if you give it a chance, your body will tell you if you're listening. And that's a lot of how I've operated in my work. We do some of the research with machines. The bottom line is, I listen to my body when I'm recording. I listen to the feedback from other people's bodies. I check things out with muscle testing, with SE5s and various other technologies. And then it has to work in the real world. Some of the reasons why the music that we're listening to right now works is because it resonates, each keynote, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, resonates in one of the chakras. In a consecutive ascending fashion, here's a little yogi levitating right now, we can move from the lowest frequency, and there's a correlation between the slowest vibrating colors and sounds, the lowest frequencies, to the highest frequencies, up in the ceiling. So we're moving from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, on at least one level of reality, of physical reality, shall we say maybe the grossest level of the aura, the physical aura. This seems to be true. I've been working now with this for 17 years, and we know there are different systems. Jack Schwartz has a little different system in the middle. Some of the Brazilian healers work differently, but they're working on different levels of the aura. You know, there are at least 7 levels of the aura. You might be working with rays. On at least one biological level, this is a system that I found has an incredible universality. In this culture, in Europe, in Asia, people are working with this system. I've been privileged to have people from just about every, except Antarctica, is the only one I don't know about, from every continent, all different cultures, finding incredible response with this format, which suggests to me that there is something that is right on about it, that is true. Now, I didn't invent this. The spectrum has been around for a long time. The rainbow's been around. So Isaac Newton, so Francis Bacon, a lot of the guys with Sir in their name were working with this hundreds of years ago. When I came out with this, some of the people in the Rosicrucian said, how could you be doing this, because this is part of our secret science, and you haven't been into the 33rd degree? Well, I know what came through in meditation and in dreams, and since you can't copyright dreams and meditations, they said it was okay. Also, the chant that came through on ancient echoes apparently is a very ancient chant known to certain schools, but it just came out one day when I was in the studio recording the album with Georgia Kelly. So I trust when this happens, and I trust when stuff comes through without my even hearing it sometimes. It just comes right through my fingers onto the keyboard. My job is to get out of the way and let the music play in many of these cases, so that I become an instrument of the instrument. What I'd like to do right now, very quickly, is just take us very briefly through an experience of sound and color. And as comfortable as you get in your seats right now, I'd like you to possibly just stretch a moment. Let's see. Good, here we go. There we go. Thank you. Okay, and as we begin, now we had been listening to a little bit of Spectrum Suite, which was the first album I released in 1975, which has subsequently been re-recorded but essentially work with the same format. This album is entitled Crystal Suite, which instead of having just a solo electric piano, we now add a celestial choir and some sustained string sounds, and also some of the sounds of crystal bowls. And can we get this just a little bit louder right now? We begin with the color red, resonating at the base of your spine. On the album, we have just the times are 1/3 the time, so it's a little easier to work with in a group setting. Thank you. I want you to breathe into this area for the next 3 or 4 moments.
We need more power on here.
Okay. For the next few moments, there's nowhere else you need to go. So just allow yourself to melt into the music, to become the music, to open up and receive the musical massage. The next color is orange, resonating at the genital center in the second chakra. And you can place your attention in these areas. You can visualize the colors. If you watch the colors, you may see some after images. If the slides go backwards later on, we might have a very exciting time with it. The basic thing right now is your body being nourished by the sounds and colors as we move on to the color yellow in the solar plexus. Again, breathing into that area. Moving on up to the color green, resonating the chest center and the heart chakra. Moving on up to the color blue in the throat center. When we work with the chakras in an ascending consecutive fashion, we literally help entrain the chakras to each other, which enhances their functioning, which makes your whole energy flow much more effective and powerful. The next color is indigo, resonating the third eye center in the middle of the forehead. Again, taking a deep breath, noticing that your breath is deeper, more regular now than when we began. Finally, we come to the color violet, resonating at the top of your head, the crown chakra. And if you haven't already done so, just allow your eyes to close a moment and go inside. A little scan, take a little inventory of your body. Notice how it's feeling right now. Become aware of the space inside your chest, the space between your ears. And when you're ready, gently allow your eyes to reopen. As you come back down, notice if any of these colors appear slightly different. Maybe a little brighter, maybe the spectrum quite changed. This would be a function of your nervous system, your sense organs getting tuned up. Now they are seeing what's there on the slide. These are the same slides going up and down. But rather than your body choosing from the frequencies, a smorgasbord of sound, what you saw was what you needed, now what you're seeing is what is. So this is literally a way to tune your humanism with sound and color. I consider Spectrum Suite and Crystal Suite to be the two most effective sound tools for tuning on tape or CD that I've ever experienced, and I'm very happy and fortunate and privileged and honored and humbled to have had the opportunity to work with them. We're going to stop at yellow because this is a good color to bring us back into the body for completion. And while we have that up here, and stop here and put on one other piece of music while you notice how you're feeling. Maybe a little more relaxed, maybe a little more refreshed. Many people think that relaxation means to wimp out and just totally turn into jelly. Not necessarily. Relaxation can be a great energizing and re-energizing, rejuvenation, which is why when we deal in health and well-being, can we get the slides off, please? When you allow the body, at least once a day, 20 minutes would be great, to experience, shall we say, a sound bath or a sound and color bath, when you allow the body, and can we get a little more light just in the front? Beautiful, thank you. When we allow the body to get into this tuned state, at least once a day, we do an incredible amount to assist the body in healing itself. Now, obviously, I have some recommendations for which tapes to listen to, but you can find many other tapes that will work. Getting out in nature will be great. Holding your breath will be great. Doing yoga and meditating, no matter what system. Some of the entrainment devices that we have in the back room and that many of the other speakers will tell you about will work. There are many, many paths up the mountain. The important thing is to be using some that work for you. That's your responsibility. Okay, may I have that little light, little flashlight? Who is the flashlight? Oh, can I borrow that? While we had, I'd like you to hear, thank you, this piece of music, which is entitled Radiance, and the piece is an anti-frantic version of Pachelbel's Canon in D major. And as we're listening, the first part, I'd just like you to, I'll give you a little bit of a guided meditation, and then we'll just allow the music to take you deeper. I'd like you to start now by focusing on your breathing. Just become aware of your breathing. Notice what happens in your body when you breathe in and out. In your own library, you may find that a lot of the music that you have may do that. Now, so what do? Do you throw out all the tapes? Well, not necessarily, but you may need to balance them with music that balances you, that brings you back, or balance it with doing some yoga or some meditation, something, or some of these other machines and the special devices that you're all finding out about at programs like this. So that's something you need to know, that a lot of the sounds that are available, just like the colors in restaurants, were not designed with your higher functioning and with your health in mind. So you have to take back some of that control for yourself. Now, in the last 10 years or so, there's also been a lot of tapes coming on the market that have subliminal message underneath them. There's a case happening right now in Reno, Nevada, wondering whether a certain rock and roll group used subliminal messages underneath one of his songs to help somebody commit suicide. Well, I wasn't with that group. I don't know. We do know that there are many, many different forms of these subliminals on the market, and there are different bits of disinformation that come out, some of which suggest that no subliminal can work because you don't hear them. Subliminal means something below the threshold of conscious awareness. Now, in this room, I don't have to tell most of you that just because you can't hear it and just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not having an effect. I mean, to see these grown professional witnesses and lawyers trying to tell a jury that something that people can't hear can't possibly have an effect on them, you know, I suppose I was also surprised that I wasn't called as a witness, but I'm in a sense happy that I wasn't for certain other reasons. The music industry doesn't want you to know certain things, and like many other situations, there are many industries that don't want you to know the truth. As you well know, there are subliminals laced in many advertisements. If you look at most print ads, certainly any liquor ads, you'll find loads of subliminal advertising. But that's another whole topic. What I'm interested in is using subliminals not for negative purposes, not to sell you things, but to facilitate, to enhance your own well-being. So we found that we can enhance even music like Spectrum Suite with affirmations for healing, for weight loss, for going to sleep, for waking up. And over the years, we found that this is an enhancement and amplification where we speak to the intelligence, we bypass the conscious mind, we go right to the subconscious mind. Relaxation is the key, We balance the brain. Music like this, because you can't analyze it, tends to allow people's brains to get synchronized, come into balance. We entrain a higher level brain functioning. And then the subliminals, such as every day in every way, you get better and better. I mean, some classics like that, and your body is now totally relaxed. Listening to this music helps stimulate your body to bring it, stimulates your healing response. Your body knows how to heal itself. Music like listening to this tape assists you in healing yourself. Again, things that your body relates to, your mind relates to, and in the catalogs that some of you may have, we have a number of these titles available. Some of the people on the marketplace, there are a number of different tapes. Some are much better than others. Some apparently have some negative affirmations, and unfortunately, a lot of the people have some have Muzak as music. I know when I hear Muzak, no matter what the affirmation or subliminal or otherwise, that one is not going to work for me. I know that some of the tapes have fake oceans, and subliminal or otherwise, when I hear a fake ocean, my body recognizes it's a fake ocean, and I turn off to the message. I've found myself very nervous in a tape that was supposed to be a relaxation tape that I didn't even know was on at a friend's home. I just knew I walked into his house, I felt uptight, and checking out the different possibilities, we found out that it was a tape. So check out. There are many things that you can avail yourself of now. The basic bottom line is to be tuned into your own response ability, how you're responding. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, hopefully what you bought has a money-back guarantee. Anything that I've ever sold from the first day I've been in business has had a money-back guarantee for the karmic aspects, as well as the fact that I wouldn't want somebody to have something that didn't work, because I know nothing works for everybody, but certainly a lot of these things work for a lot of people. In the last several years, and I'll be tying everything together now, people in the New Age, consciousness, global sciences perspective, who know about a lot of these unusual things, or the ancient technologies, the future sciences, have been into meditation, ways of assisting the body in higher functioning. A whole new audience has suddenly been really opening up to meditation and deep relaxation. And that is the audience of people in recovery. People have come from addictions, from whether it be substance abuse or alcoholism, codependency, etc. Many of these people are now finding a need, particularly through the 11th step, to contact a higher power. And whether we call it God or meditation or higher self or whatever, the basic fundamental brain waves and some of the same physiological coordinates are at work. And when you tune in, you assist the body in training to a higher level reality, a higher level functioning, whether it be the earth, the cosmos, God, etc. No matter what the name is, something special is going on. And it's been my great privilege the last several years to have a whole new audience start to tune in and rediscover things that many people have known for many years. And the use of subliminals with music that gets people into a relaxed state has again enabled many people to have breakthroughs and take the work to a new level. So if you're interested more in that, I'll be back at a back table here today, and I'll be around for the next several days. So if you have questions or want to ask me, or particularly if some of you have some feedback and some things you'd like to share with me, I love to get that kind of feedback, particularly if you have it written down as well, so I could take it home and remember it better that way. It's one of the great ways that we keep the work going. I see by the hands of the clock that it's just about time to bring it to a close now, so I'd like to just remind you that you have within you an incredible tuning device, your own human instrument. It knows what it likes, it knows how it likes to be played, it knows what it likes to hear, and if you listen to it, if you give it the chance, it will speak to you, it will tell you, and when you work together, your inner child, your higher self, all the different parts of who and what we really are, come into balance, come into harmony, and everything works better. And what we know, that as one of us begins to move into meditation, it helps others to move into meditation. We entrain others. It's been said by many other people that as more and more of us begin to meditate, begin to tune into higher levels of frequency and form and function, we radiate out, we broadcast those frequencies to the planet. And that helps harmonize our planet. And we know that the more that we could manifest and ground and radiate frequencies of love and light and health and harmony, there's no time like the present for our planet to get all the help that she can get. So we're doing good on all those levels. I thank you very much for sharing this time with us, and God bless you. Thank you, Dean.